Hey everybody, we're live and welcome to the Dev Talk Show. It is November 20th, the week of Thanksgiving holiday here in the US. That's typically, well, it is Thursday. A lot of folks have Friday off too. And I'm here with my co-host, Rich Ross. How is it going?
It's going well, Chris. Happy Monday. Nice and
Gearing
chilly out
up,
there.
yeah. You know, it was. It was. I said, wow, we're not going to
And
have these 60-degree days in November anymore.
no. I'm kind of I like the cold weather, so it's good. It's good all around. You need a little bit of cold, especially up here in the Northeast.
Yeah, I guess. I don't
Come
mind
on,
it so much. I'm spoiled. I'm from Southern California, so
oh, that's
for me,
true.
the perfect day is 75 degrees is the perfect day. Maybe even 73 is fine too. But as I've moved out here, I've kind of been okay with 68 and 65. And I think the main reason is because that's still weather where I feel like I can fire up the smoker without consuming a ton of fuel.
Right.
And I like nothing more than I'm very lucky to work at home, and I like nothing more than putting on some ribs around 9 a.m. and then knowing I can take them off around 4, and then we're going to be ready to eat like at 6, and it's just great. I don't have to do anything, and it's like, wow, what a great meal.
That's pretty cool. Okay. You might
Yeah,
have sold me on that part.
yeah. So in any case, thank you everybody for joining us, whether you're watching us in the future on YouTube or live right now, either on Twitch, on YouTube. Maybe you caught our post on Twitter, or I have been simulcasting this to my own LinkedIn profile until we can get 150 followers on the Dev Talk Show's profile on LinkedIn, and then we're eligible to stream there too. And I think a lot of developers are on LinkedIn every day, so I think it'd be a great stop.
Awesome. Are we
Yeah,
close?
I don't know. I think the last time we looked, I think we were in single digits still. So,
Okay.
but any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to leave them to us. You can tweet at us. Don't hesitate to leave them in the YouTube comments. We definitely look at them. And we know that there is definitely somebody who's interested in moving. How do you move ASP.NET 4 or the .NET Framework version web forms, essentially?
Mm-hmm.
How do you move it to this new world? And we would love to take that on because I think it's something that maybe gets left behind.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to show you. And Rich has not seen this. So, and we kind of, sometimes I think we do this on purpose.
Yeah.
I know we do it on purpose, is the genuine reaction instead of like, oh, we planned this and we rehearsed it 10 times. So I am going to present, and for the first time, maybe in a while, I don't know, that might not be true. We've probably been in GA, but the point is, this is going to be the GA general release of Visual Studio 2022. In fact, I couldn't show you the little screen, but this is it. This is the important thing. Is here we are, version 17.8. And why is that important? Because that came out with .NET Conf.
Yeah.
It installs .NET 8 if you have a workload picked, that either the .NET workload or the ASP.NET workload, you're going to get .NET 8. You could always go out and do it separately. But we're working in here for the first time in a while, because we spent a lot of the summer and fall in preview because we're working with Blazor and .NET 8 and the release. But it's done. It's ready. Here we go. So why am I here? I'm here because we have, on my system, I have a code folder, TDTS web, which is hard to say several times fast, but there's a solution here in source. Oh, I got to go several layers to the Dev Talk Show. And this is our application bumped up for .NET 8. And I'm curious if you notice a change right off the bat. You might not, because it's kind of a trick question. There's no client project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, client project. So I chose to remove the client project and to remove all interactivity.
Okay.
And the main reason was because I felt that the site in its current state doesn't require interactivity. And that's the term that you will see if you watch those .NET Conf videos, is islands of interactivity in your application. Blazor now thinks foundationally is a server-side rendered framework first, but of course you make the choice as a developer whether you want interactivity everywhere. And interactivity is the term we use for in the old, in .NET 7 and previous, whether we were choosing Blazor Server or Blazor WebAssembly. Now we just say, do you need interactivity? And if you want it to work both ways, you've got interactive auto mode, or you can pick server, which is Blazor Server. You can pick WebAssembly for Blazor WebAssembly, but you only have to pick it for the components. You don't need the whole thing to fire up and create a Signal R circuit or download WebAssembly if your site or page doesn't need it. And I kind of came to the conclusion that we didn't, because when we look at our home Razor page, which could still use some cleanup and care, and there's probably some very pained web developers out there who see div everywhere. And I understand, and I'm sorry, but we inherited this code in a way, and we'll fix it up. Our web component doesn't need to be interactive, because all it does is it goes out, given a video ID, it creates an embedded iframe that lets you play a YouTube video. And if I go to that component here, first of all, there isn't much to it other than just saying, hey, let's build the iframe properly.
Right.
Like, there's literally no code to this. Even our friend, the latest YouTube video component, which builds off the YouTube video component, it does use code, but it only needs it on startup. It only needs it when the page is initialized.
Yes.
And server-side rendering is capable of handling that. And even better, if we add stream rendering, which I don't even think I have. I'm not even sure that I have. We'll look at that.
Yeah.
We add stream rendering to this component, and we don't have to even wait for that little delay. So I decided, let's not use the features we don't need. I would like for us to come up with interactive components that go on the page. The one that I've come up with, and I would love ideas in the audience, throw them in the comments, things that could really help the site, is what if we had like a survey and people could propose new shows, and maybe we can wire that up directly to our GitHub repo. And so maybe, I don't know, I haven't explored the GitHub API. I don't think you have either. Is, can we wire somebody's suggestions straight into the issues? Can people vote there and it stars it? That would be cool. And then that would be the kind of interactivity where somebody watching might see it rolling up. Well, then we would need an interactive component.
Sure.
But
and that'd be fun to do, right? Take it from the static content page to something that's a little more interactive.
Right. So if I run it, folks who have been watching us work with Blazor through this site for a while might notice a change. In that one thing I always said we'll do later is not use the left-hand classic Blazor column of pages to be our navigation. I think this is awfully huge because I was working on checking things out. So this is statically rendered. We have our old top menu back from the MVC-based app, and our YouTube component picks out my favorite episode of all time, and then the latest episode, which of course is us talking live.
Right now.
And we might have a future where we look at the release from the API and say, well, let's not take the live one, or we might even say, oh, we're live now. But so those will be great upgrades.
Yeah.
But I should even be able to mute the tab and fire it up. And here we are, probably with a little delay, talking about, oh, there it is. I just muted the tab. Well, that's weird. It's
that's a little too close.
And now it's gonna do it again. Give it another second, and we're gonna mute the tab, and it's just gonna keep. There it goes. All right, so that's where I'm at. and I know
Okay.
you haven't gotten a chance to see that yet.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks to Andy Schwam, who made the original page. Did it? We figured out that this was like 2019, 2018, maybe 2019, and just did it in MVC, and he just hammered out a view, and that was it. And basically what I did, just so people maybe wonder, is in app.razor, you have what looks like a traditional web page. And this is something I didn't notice, but I haven't gone back and made a .NET 7 Blazor project to check. But Dan Roth made a point during the .NET Conf that now AppRazor looks like a traditional page with the doc type HTML elements and head and body and all of that. It got me thinking, like, oh, was it not like that before? And I never bothered to go look, but that might be interesting to check out. I took out the CSS pages that they supplied because I said, well, I don't want your style. I want my style. And still kept Bootstrap, didn't touch that. Used our site CSS. And then I did have to go to the nav menu. And while there's so much Bootstrap in here that like you wouldn't notice, but if you compared this to what comes in the templates, this has been changed to use the header, the CSS that created the heading at the top from the old site, except just using navlink for that little tiny bit to create the A tag, essentially.
Okay.
Letting navlink do that. So, oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I think you just went. Let's see if I can show that real quick.
Yeah. So while you're bringing that up,
what did you do exactly?
I had I have a .NET 7 Blazor project that I was working on because I ran into some issues before the RCs in building out an application. So I knew I had this around, and part of the goal this week, since it's kind of a quiet week, is to actually switch that up to .NET 8. But this is the app.razor that was in my project. That was a .NET 7 based project.
Okay. So that's cool. So that's how it looked. Basically, app.razor was the router component.
Yeah.
And now today, the router component still comes into play, but it's a web page that has a head outlet component and a routes component.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. I just noticed looking at the screen that when I look at my screen, I look the wrong way, and I wonder what I've done in the StreamYard setup or whatever. I'll have to look at that because I'm not looking at the code. I have to do this if I want to pretend I'm looking at the code. So in any case, yeah, I think this is cool, actually.
So does that routes component show that same bit of HTML?
Yeah. Let's go take a look at what routes looks like, because this is the stuff you never bother looking at. So routes, and then I'll bring up the page. We can kind of look at them side by side if I can shrink these in just nicely.
There you go.
So the component's still called router. It still examines your assembly to basically figure out, it's looking for page directives, and it's saying, okay, well, if there's page directives, then those are things I need to set up routes for, which in our case is just home and about. And but it is a lot smaller. One of the things that they removed from the templates is they removed the not found, and it was because they said this doesn't really happen. Like not found doesn't get activated in the router component, because if it were not found, that was already being caught by the web server, essentially.
Yep. Getting it for it.
Yeah. So it's like, what is this for? Exactly. Right. But other than that, it is the same. Like I don't want to focus on lines 6 through 11 there.
Yep.
It's the same. Yeah.
It just cleans up your app.razor, right? Hey, if I want to look at routes, I know where I can go look at it. But this is,
and I think it gives me that comfortability that like it's just a web page with components.
Yeah.
So I like, it's nice that we've gotten to a place where you can file a new project here and you don't feel locked into any of your decisions, because if I wanted interactivity, I could come here, I could go to add Razor components, I could say just simply add interactive server components, and I basically now, I have to make one more change down below, because I'm not going to leave this. I have to make that same exact change here and map Razor components, essentially. And now I've got Blazor servers ready to go. All I have to do is go and mark components as using Blazor server.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to keep the pattern of using that latest video service, which is something that I built on the show in order for that latest YouTube video service to be ready for client and server interactivity. Not that it needed it, but I just wanted to figure out, how do you do this? And the way that I chose to do it was by implementing an interface, having a server-side version of the service, having a WASM-side version of the service.
Yeah.
And then I've got to pass in the API key, which is a safely tucked away secret sitting in my secrets.json. I kept that, but that's it. It's it's ready to go. It's simple. And I just want to get it published. That would be great.
Right.
So
we're ready to say ship it, right? Is what you're saying?
Yeah. Something like that. So today, the Dev Talk Show is hosted at TheDevTalkShow.com. And as you can see, it looks pretty similar. This is except we don't have a latest episode component. So the latest episode is from when we were still back in the studio even. So that tells you how long ago that was. But you could click between home and about, and that's pretty much it. There's a very subtle changing of, which you can't even see. It's a very subtle coloring that's going on here. We'll have to work with the CSS,
okay.
and that's fine. So the next step is to look at, where is all this stuff? If I go to github.com, Dev Talk Show, we have a TDTS web repository, which is currently private. I just want to examine it real quick to make sure that I haven't accidentally uploaded a secret or something, but I intend for this to be public. I just want to double check, because if I have made a mistake like that, looking through the history, then I'll obliterate the repo and we'll bring it back to life
again. Yeah.
So I have a prod branch, which I believe, let's make sure I know what I'm doing here. I believe that matches what's going on locally. So bringing up PowerShell and TDTS web, PowerShell helpfully figures that's what I want to do. And if I say git status, up to date, origin prod, the naming of the branches we can all look at and figure out later. That's fine. But it turns out main does not have the latest, mainly because I wasn't 100% sure if we'd want to walk it back on the show or anything I didn't know. So that's where it's sitting.
Okay.
Let me see if I can also get the current. We have an Azure web app that's running the current show.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see if I can bring that up here. Okay, good. That looks okay, I think. So, little small. The portal's there's a lot going on here, but there's nothing more to it than there's an app service, and I think it's hooked up. I think if we went through Deployment Center, I'd probably find it. I like how it says deployment provider VSTS. What it really means is it's Azure DevOps is where this project is. And that's it. Everything else is working. There's a default domain. The custom certificates are working, all of that. So the question now is, what's the best way for us to get started? Different site, different GitHub repo. Maybe start in GitHub.
We could right click and publish.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
I guess we could
do that. No, that works great once, but
yeah,
and yes, you can still.
And
do
admittedly,
that,
I actually don't mind doing it just to see. I will do stuff like that. I will use the tooling just to say, okay, what did you do?
Right.
And then I might go, okay, now how do I turn this into CI/CD?
Exactly.
So
we have this project here, and you've got the latest checked into prod.
Yep.
So from here, we can actually go to actions and build out essentially a new action to do the deployment.
Okay. Oh, really cool. Okay.
And because we don't have any actions created yet, and actions are usually stored in .github/workflows for that's where it looks for those. Because we don't have anything in that folder, we don't even have that folder as part of the project. We can actually come here and find a template.
Right. Yeah, and it's been a while since I've been in here, but look at this.
Yeah.
That one looks good. And then it looks like there's just a lot.
Yes.
Woo,
and you can certainly sort through those and say, show me just the .NET stuff, show me just the Azure stuff, because GitHub, just like Azure DevOps, will deploy to any cloud, any location, right? So you've got many capabilities more than we need in there.
I would love to get to here to where we are publishing our web app, or maybe a different app. It doesn't necessarily have to be this app, to a container registry that anybody could pull it down, but that we could also, push it up that way. And the only reason I say anybody is because a lot of the code we're working on, I mean, you would not make it public in your organization or for yourself, but a lot of this is just so maybe other folks can, learn with what we're doing and not just, it's not locked away behind a video. We'll figure it out as we go along.
I mean, maybe somebody wants to take our code base and run it, compile it as an AOT in a container.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to do that stuff too. So deploy a .NET Core app to an Azure web app. Go ahead and click configure, I suppose.
Yes.
Let's see where this takes us. Well, we got a bunch of comments in this YAML file that has come up here.
Yep. So we're still on the prod branch? Should we go back to the main branch?
I happen to be in main, so maybe I should have done that in prod, or
you can always, when we do check-in, we can commit changes to the prod branch as opposed to the main branch. That's probably the best way to do it.
Okay.
So it's giving us the structure of what we need to deploy into Azure.
Right. And they're saying here, download the published profile. I feel like we've done this before on a show a while ago. We go get it from the portal, and then it looks like we're going to update some things. So download the published profile from the overview page of your web app in the Azure portal. I think that you can do that. I think that's a file that you get, but let me just double check what it's going to do when I click on that. I'm on the overview page, download published profile, and so it did download. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to open the file, but all I really had to do is I'm in my web app now, and all I had to do was just click here, and a file came down.
Yeah, and that file has a lot of metadata about your environment. One of those pieces of metadata is an account that you can use to publish changes to your web app. Okay. And that's why you want to be careful. We're trying to be careful opening it, looking at it, because there is actually a password, username password in there. Yeah. And so if I take a quick aside, because I think this actually shouldn't be surprising. When I tried looking up different documentation for how to do this, I got a lot of hits. Sure. But each of these hits is nuanced differently. This one is specifically in the AppService documentation, kind of talking about how to do this. But this one is not in the AppService documentation. It's on the .NET side. So it's not necessarily, it does happen to be an ASP.NET Core web app, and it is going to AppService, and it does use the publish profile method. But when you go this way, one of the things they said here is they said you could go the publish profile method, but you could also create a service principal manually, I think is what they're saying here. Maybe we have to do that later, or you can even do another. So they have the different methods. Yeah. So to do this, which is fine. Yeah. And then there are different reasons why you might use many different, or these possible different methods. Right. And time box me to how much time we want to spend on this. But the idea is, you've got code that lives in GitHub. Sorry. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Okay. So you've got code that lives in GitHub. GitHub doesn't know how to talk to, in this case, Azure. So what we're doing with each one of those three methods is saying, I need to get my code into a service in Azure. I need some way to authenticate and then get my code pushed into there. Easiest way to do that, download the publishing profile because there's already an account and a password that exists, and we can bring that in our secrets in the repo, and we're off and running. To make it a little more secure, you can actually use something called a service principal, and that's an identity in your Microsoft Entra ID, or what you used to call Azure AD, in that environment. And you can assign, because it's an identity, you can assign roles to that in your Azure subscription. So you can say that service principal that we create, and there's if you go to the documentation, there's a very quick Azure CLI command that you can use to script that out and get back a JSON package. And that JSON package is what we paste into a GitHub secret under the Azure credential something. I forget.
It shows it right here in step 2, Azure Web. So I switched out while you were talking. I switched so I could double check that when I open that file, that Windows didn't say like, oh, you want to open it here? Because I am sharing a screen instead of a window. So I've got that open safely off camera. It looks like I got to create a secret Azure Web App Publish profile. So now I just have to remember if I need to commit these changes.
You would have to, So I would say do a control, click on settings.
Okay.
And this way settings opens up in another tab. And then over there, you can go ahead and do that piece.
Oh, that was smart. That was cool.
Yeah.
I just learned that control clicking on a link. Is that what I just learned? Oh, look at that. And it's funny. I'm today years old, because you want to know how I do it. I click here and I say open link in new tab.
Yeah.
But I bet you I start switching. I bet you I do. So secrets and variables, I'm going to guess that I go to actions.
Yep.
And here they are. And it looks like this is the one, the repository secrets. Okay. So I'm going to take this off camera, but let me do as much of it as I can. It wants the secret to be named Azure Web App Publish Profile. That's going to be here. And now I'm going to go paste in the file that I downloaded from the portal when I went to my web app. So
I move off the camera.
Yeah. Actually, just in case, we'll have the funky, we're going to have the funky look there for just a second.
Yep. While you're doing that, just to complete the account slide.
Yeah.
So there's publish profile, there's service principal, and you give permissions to whatever in Azure you need to access to. Then there is a more secure method that came out around OpenID and being able to create essentially very similar to the service principal, but a mechanism where GitHub basically requests a token to go ahead and push code into Azure. And you can really get very specific on, what branch is allowed to publish into Azure as well. So there's directions on how to do that when you go through the OpenID side of things. So
so all of that's here. This looks like this is the most up to date in talking about all three of those things. Again, some of them are great for getting started. Your organization might be more interested in this, or your compliance might be most interested in this one, just depending on how they feel. And again, everybody's security posture is different. There isn't always the one true way for everyone. So I'm actually, while we're sitting here, I want to make sure that I get this into the show notes that we did that. And I'll update them a little bit later, but I want to make sure I get the link in because that seems pretty valuable. So you saw that I had the dialog box to create the secret. I've created it. And even if I click on edit, it doesn't show you the secret, but it lets me change it. And the secret was an XML file. I don't think it has to be XML. I just think that that's what was produced by the portal. And there was a bunch of stuff in it. I didn't really stop and look at it very closely, but it's there. So that's a good start. Now, this is saying change the value for Azure Web App name, optionally change the Azure package path, and .NET version environment variables below. Okay. So those are three that I should take a look at here. The Azure Web App name, I believe that that's the same as, like, it really is just the name of this app.
Yeah.
So
if you go to where the name of the app is and just look to the right of it, the ellipse there gives you the option to copy that title. That's what you want.
Okay. So here we are, and
up in the upper left.
Yeah. Okay.
And the ellipse just to the right of that.
Oh, there's a copy title to clipboard. Okay. All right. Cool.
That's it.
So that was nice, and then we can put that here.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. About package path, that could be interesting because our project is not necessarily in the root.
Yes.
So
we don't want to come off of that. There you go. Nice.
You see, look at that control. So I think I want here.
That's what the proj file is.
The proj file is here. So I guess I would say /source /devtalkshow /devtalkshow.web /devtalkshow.web.
No, just two of them.
Okay.
Right, because there's no TalkShow Web in TalkShow Web.
Oh, you're right. This is the path, and then this is just. Yeah, I got it. You're right. There aren't two of them. Okay.
It's the "You Are Here" button. Yes.
So, /source /the dev talk show /the dev talk show .web.
And lowercase a, because
yep.
My guess is
probably Linux.
Yeah.
It's been a whole show on that.
At least we got the slashes going the right way this time.
I'm hoping this works. Set it to 8.
So not 8. So so in the old way this package worked, it was like single digits. So if you do 8.0.x, we'll be fine.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're saying go ahead and this is basically keeping up with us too, right?
Mm-hmm.
With probably security patches, because one little known fact of the .NET platform is that if the if the patch release that comes out as a security patch, you are supposed to upgrade to it.
Right.
If it's not, you're kind of allowed to stay. Now it's saying on a push to main. I imagine we're going to want that to be prod. Or I can push it to main, but we can try prod first.
Yep, we can certainly do prod. The other thing is that we also don't have to rely on a push because of that line at 30 that says workflow dispatch. So that means we can actually go to the actions tab and say run this workflow. If we don't have that line in there, we don't get that option.
Okay, and that makes sense because we're testing it out still. We're gonna want to click that button. I don't know. I just wonder how much more we have to do here.
The only thing I would. We should be fine because in using some of the other security methods, there's that properties at the top, just below where permissions 32.
Yeah. Okay.
All we're looking to do for this repo is read what's there. For some of the other permissions, you may need a token : write permission because you're actually requesting a token and saving it.
Now, the fact that I'm set to commit to main, is that a problem? Or
in that, I mean, you could create a new branch for this commit and start a pull request. Well, it's not really a problem, although we shouldn't. So in the grand scheme of things, we shouldn't commit to main directly, right? We should go through pull requests.
That's fine. Yep, that's fine. I have
no problem. Now, if you wanted to put that prod branch in there, you could check it into prod branch as well.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll merge the pull request into prod. I think. Like, let's see what happens if I want to make the base prod. It's like, yeah, sure, that's fine, because we're adding a file it didn't know about before. So I can totally understand why Git is saying that's cool. So I think I could just merge this in.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be its own file. There shouldn't be any collisions.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So create the pull request, and this is fine. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm curious what other options I had here. Just was curious. Okay. Create a draft pull request. That's a cool idea. Because sometimes that's stuff that we do with our teams, like verbally, where I say, hold on, I created a pull request, but it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I actually like that. It's been a while since I've really explored a lot of this stuff quickly. And now it's like, okay, I I suppose at some point that would be a good idea, right?
Definitely. So we kind of went through it real quick, and you don't have it in your subscription, but one thing that came out of GitHub Universe the week before, 2 weeks before, was the ability to have commit Copilot basically define or give the description of your commit. So not only does it say this file was checked in and here's a rough estimate of the changes based on its evaluation of what was there, but it puts a hyperlink back into that change. So it really gives some intelligent commits or intelligent description to your pull requests.
Huh. Okay. Now you were saying added to the subscription, maybe something that I don't have.
I don't think you have. Do you have Copilot on your?
I do. I don't know if I had to turn it on. So I think I have, and I know that some new announcements were made that I'm not totally up to date on, but what I have, it used to be called GitHub Pro. Maybe it still is called that.
Okay.
So in fact, I think does it say it anywhere?
There's Copilot down there.
Yeah. So active Copilot subscription.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that's something we can look at doing, because I do think that sounds really cool. But in any case, so I think I could just merge this.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure if that's going to publish the page, but we're going to find out. Pull request successfully merged and closed. I think if I go over to Actions, I get, oh, look at that. One workflow run is on its way.
Go take a look.
And it looks like it's going to try doing everything we just talked about.
Yep, because you said trigger on prod, right?
Right, I did.
From into prod. Okay, there you go.
Did. Yeah, and so best practices for this, I'm going to admit, I haven't like studied in depth, but I personally am kind of a trunk-based developer. That's my favorite flow. I know that there are many teams, many organizations, many people who like to have a main, but then they like to have there's nothing wrong with feature branches, but I try to get them back into main as fast as I can. I actually, for many years, I would call it trunk. And I would basically then have prod just be the branch that that's what I'm deploying off of. So now I'm ready for the world to see it. But unfortunately, this didn't work. And is it because specify a project or solution file? Okay, and it didn't like the file that I picked. So could it be curious? I'm just curious what I did wrong there.
Yeah. So we can see if it tells us. What I typically do when I see something like that says I'm not in the right directory is the step before it. I will just do a run command and say ls and let me know kind of what directory that we're in.
Oh, okay. So we would basically go back, and I see what you're saying. I want to go back to the action, right? Which is basically our workflow.
Yep.
So
now,
this one.
If you go down to that one, that might give you an edit button. I don't see one. Maybe in the ellipse in the upper right. Status is workflow. No. So we go to code.
Okay. Because now we have there's a new folder in here, isn't there?
In the prod branch, yes.
Right.
And there's our YAML file.
Okay. And then you were saying you like to put, is it another step you do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it complained because I'm looking for, it's interesting. Where does it? Azure Web App Package Path. Azure Web Package Path with package deploy. Oh, interesting. But Azure Web App Package Path was supposed to be what again? It was supposed to be
24.
Yeah, but I'm wondering what I did wrong. It says set this path to your web app project.
Right.
Set this to the path to your web app project. And the complaint was interesting. Was in build with .NET. It said the current working directory does not contain a project or solution file. So it did pull this from environment. Okay. So let me just look at my folder. So here is TDTS web on my machine. Not a great place to put this, I suppose. Maybe there. So source, the DevTalkShow, the DevTalkShow.web. And I feel like there's a TS project file here.
Yeah.
I wonder if, do I have to put, but it says the current working directory does not. So then I'm wondering how this is.
Oh, because that's package path, not working directory. Hang on. Let me check something out real quick.
Okay.
Think.
Let me go back to the code here. We're about packet path. Packages locked with JSON. Also, another thing that could be happening here is a comment or two, but just curious. All right. So, okay, now this is interesting. .NET publish environment.NET root / my app. But we're not even that far yet.
Yeah.
So
okay. There probably is a cleaner way to do this, but if you go to, so look at your step build with .NET.
Okay.
And then we can actually tell it here what the working directory is for our .NET component.
I need to hit edit.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go down. And here it is, .NET publish. I'm sorry, build with .NET.
We need to do twice. There might be a more general or common way to set this up top.
Right.
But for now, let's just do it here so we can get it running.
Yep.
So next line. Working -directory. Colon, and then we're going to put /source / yep.
We're basically walking back to that same spot, right?
Yep, because it's from the root.
Yeah.
So we can take that package path and put it back to just being dot. Because we don't care where the package path lives. It doesn't have to live in the project.
Okay. Okay.
So before you do this, we also need to do the same thing on the step below on publish.
Ah, I see. So it looks like it's publishing to environment.net root my app, and then they use that later. So do we have to change that, or does it need to know where to find this? Is that what
exactly? It's the running, because you're running .NET command, .NET build.
I got it. Yeah.
Yep.
I get what you're saying now. Is that, and then I accidentally dropped a V there. Sorry, YAML. I apologize. So you have to apologize to YAML more than JSON, it turns out. Like I think I even have to apologize if I do like this. Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it, YAML. JSON would have been cool with it, but YAML's very particular.
Yep.
So, anyways, commit message is add working directory to build and publish steps, just so we maybe kind of remember what we did here. And I've committed it, and so now, ta-da! It's going to try again, and Boy, that would be awesome if this just worked. I said that the first time. So is it 3
It would
times?
still be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it would still be pretty awesome. But setup.NET Core. I love that it just goes and gets, like, that's so cool to me that it's like, oh yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Build with .NET, restored project, and warnings that oh yeah, warnings. Yeah, there are some warnings in this project, which I do want to look at one of these days. Wow, it's just like all there. Boom.
Now we go to deploy.
Yeah. That was quick. So
yeah.
Those warnings are because you might remember, I don't know if I did this on camera or not, where the response that comes back from YouTube comes back as some big JSON blob, and I did paste JSON as classes.
Mm-hmm.
And Visual Studio is like, okay, here you go. But Visual Studio has also been warning me that, hold on a second, some of these could be null, so you might want to make these nullable versions of the different types, string and so forth.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I'll get around to it, Visual Studio. I will. But, there's no unit testing in this project. And I will admit that I'm not sure there's a lot of unit testing to do yet because we're a static website. We're not taking any input. But I thought about it and I said, what we could do is we could have some tests for how to respond on the page if maybe there's a bad ID or if YouTube just doesn't answer. Like, we could respond in a way of like maybe taking that section out, or I don't know. But the good news here is I've got 2 green check marks, which makes me feel like, oh, we might really be here. Woohoo!
Yeah.
So let's
That's
go.
Cool.
Let's go see. I wonder if it's really as quick as just me going here and saying, okay, so how would I tell that it's different? I don't know that I could tell. So it's not quite yet. So yeah. I wonder though, if I have to go and make it live on the portal. It's been a while since we've done this update though. Do I have deployment slots?
So what are we looking for to know that it's changed?
I was wondering if I had deployment slots set up. No, it doesn't look like I do. What I'm looking for to know that it's changed is that the new site should be pulling the latest episode.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Can you do
here's another thing. I could also say, let's not load from cache possibly. Oh, okay. So that was a mess. When I shut off cache, it totally went nuts. So I can't say I know for sure what's happened, but let's see. If I come over here, for one thing, it still says build provider is Azure Pipelines, which makes me think that I need to disconnect this. Because see how the app's configured with Azure Pipelines? Because way back when, I think we did it through here.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I have to disconnect this.
It can't hurt because we're not using it anymore.
Right. Okay. Now, I don't necessarily need this, I don't think.
No, you don't need this at all because we've got it configured elsewhere. This is just if you're in the portal and you want to find it somewhere. So,
not that one. That was the previous one. This one worked.
So that's public, right? So if I go to it here, because I haven't been to that site in quite a while, I should be able to bring it up.
Yeah.
And just the TheDevTalkShow, right?
Yeah, devtalkshow.com. I can run this action again, though, can't I? Oh, rerun all jobs. Yeah.
Well, you can, but
you just want to check it first. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't have your screen up, just so you know. I don't know that it matters if you're just checking.
Yeah, I get an application error. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Now it completely doesn't work.
Yeah, we broke it.
So I'm dropping
configuration.
Oh, actually, you know what? I think the API key might be killing us. I would love. Oh man, you know what? It would be really. It's 8:41, so I'm not gonna do that. But what I think I will do is go to configuration and drop the API key in here, which I'll move over to do. But I think that's it. Well, boy, I hope so. That would be cool. Okay, so
what Chris is doing on the behind the scenes is there are configurations in AppService, and I know we talked a little bit about configurations a few shows ago, but think of what you used to put in the app settings or the web.config or what Chris currently has stored in his user secrets.json, and basically he's putting that API key in Azure, and this could be done through a GitHub action as well. We could have a secret over there with our API key and say, well, when you go and update our app, make sure the configuration settings are all there as well.
Okay. It's funny. I was thinking about that API key the whole time, and I was like, I'm sure I'll forget it. I hope that it's that simple, because it'd be nice to get out of here with a win today, right?
Yeah. So, the other thing we need to do is put error checking in there, because that was a pretty bad error just for not having a key.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The app should be much better. Well, still didn't work. And I'd be curious what it's complaining about. I really think that we probably have deployed it.
What if we just went to the about page?
Oh, like go straight to the about page? Yeah, I hear what you're saying. devtalkshow.com/about. That doesn't work either.
That failed too. Okay, here's what we need to look at next. Let's go to so Kudu's good. So I know where you're going. If you want to go to Kudu and show that, hey, we've got the value there, that makes sense, right? Because there's your app settings.
I was going to look at the files and try to, because there's a way that you can, it's been a while since I've done this. I can go to Bash, and I was just curious, like, I think it's in site, I think. And then there's www root. So, I mean, it's here.
Yep. One thing I'm going to suggest, let's go back to the AppService and scroll up to configuration again, but we're going to look at a different pane on configuration.
Okay.
So your app settings are covered, right? They're hidden by default. Go to general settings up top. There you go. .NET Core.
Interesting stuff here, right?
Well, we need to kind of change that, right? We got to move that too.
Sure. I believe you that we had to change it.
Okay.
It could be that.
You think it's something else,
it, right? No, I don't know. It says successfully updated web app settings. Now, I think sometimes you got to give this a second.
Yeah.
I could always restart the app. And now it's thinking a little bit. So I have a feeling that maybe instead of just immediate application error, maybe we're counting on you. Counting on you, little circles. Huh. It gave up. Okay, so like I said, not 100% sure what that's about. I don't think it would matter if to your point, try the about page. Oops, except I probably should spell it correctly. Just in case it's not finding the API key in config still, which I'm not sure. I feel like that should work. But
was that a hierarchy thing?
Yeah, it is. But like, I don't have anything in app settings. So I feel like that should work. But I just, like you said, if the about page comes up, then we know we just have to correct that. And yeah, it seems to not be working. So pretty sure there's like a way to look at logs. Oh, I wonder if the problem is we said we were deploying from a container. Oh no, look at this. Following frameworks were found. It was not possible to find a compatible framework version. So still, okay, so that's our major complaint, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, but then what are we doing here? You know what? I think we're still fighting old settings because
well, it says publishing models code.
Yeah, but didn't we publish this? Now I'm beginning to think we published this as a Docker container. And so like basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to override it pulling a Docker. It's just a big old mess. It's saying, great, you put code on here, but that's not how we started life. And
right. Well, if you go to general settings, that's what I'm saying. I think we got
no.
It should hang on.
I agree with you. You'd think you'd see it right here.
Yeah. Because in the overview section, it said code.
Oh no, it wasn't a container because we were doing it from Azure websites.
Okay. I mean, it still could have been, but
yeah. So I feel like I saved this.
I mean, you did. Those settings are there. Is there any? I don't know what it's trying to do.
Let me go to the bottom. I wonder what it's doing. Oh, I think, yeah, it's just blowing up. See container logs for debugging. See container logs for debugging. Yeah, still trying to use 3.1.
Where does it get that? Let's we can look at the manifest file directly.
Okay. Is that on the server?
Yeah, but we should be able to see it from here. If you scroll on the left side, if you scroll down, there should be AppService plan.
AppService plan shouldn't matter.
Well, what is it? It's Linux, so that's fine. Maybe it is under config. And one of the other blades we didn't jump into.
The thing is that now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going, but we built this. We didn't build it from a container. So API key is here.
Yep.
General settings wasn't here. Path mappings? No. Okay. Interesting.
What we have? Oh, that's fine. That's just
it's just saying that the framework version 8 is not found. The following frameworks were found: 3.31, 3.1.32. You can resolve the problem by installing the specified framework or SDK. So, for some reason, we're not seeing. I don't know if it's that we're not seeing this take effect. Like that seems weird, or I'm trying to think. Is there something about the app that I can't imagine what though? Because the error it's blowing up on is, and it's funny that it's saying default Docker log. I find that odd that Docker's involved. It makes me feel like if I deployed to a brand new site that it would work. just to,
Yeah.
just to eliminate that.
We could do that. We could, delete the app service and then basically create it again. And then on the same app service plan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems like a lot to do.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get it working,
Oh, interesting. Runtime stack .NET Core 8.
Yep. And the publishing model's code.
Last deployment today. Deployment logs successful. Like, it's happy about it.
Yeah.
It says that it's active, but then when you try to browse to it, yeah, it doesn't work. So what if I did this? Oh, that made it too hard. I don't want it to be hard. I just want.
Well, if you create a new one, we're going to have to do a new publishing profile, because that's going to be different. What if you just deploy it again now that we removed the .NET bit?
Oh, wait a second. We just weren't patient enough?
Really?
I really can't answer that question. So I'm going to come back to the logs here. And so
you did stop it and restart it.
Though I did, but look at what happened here. It was not possible to find compatible framework version. Okay. Whoops, that was too much zoom in. Sorry about that. Then at 1349, downloaded newer image of, and look, it's downloading .NET Core 8.
Huh.
It took 4 minutes and 10 seconds, starting container for site. So I guess behind the scenes, they're just going ahead and running everything through Docker now, whether or not I supply a container, which is fine. I don't care what they do.
Right.
And then that's it. And then container success, blah, blah. So I like, is it really that? Is it really that we just like everything was fine? And I just wasn't, I do think we had to go in and change that setting, to your point.
Yes.
Because we were telling it that it was a 3.1 website. But the other little thing that was not obvious is that the CSS, I didn't exactly get pulled over correctly. So in the previous CSS, this whole gray bar did not fill 100%.
Yeah.
It would like cut off here. But this is definitely it, because we're watching it. It wants to show it. First of all, we see the Blazor. We see the Blazor fav icon.
Yep. Nice.
And we know the latest episode thing is working here, because that actually is the latest episode. And, we can watch ourselves again. And you can click about, and not that we changed that at all, but this is definitely Blazor. Like, this is it. So moral of the story is that when updating platforms as aggressively as we did, you can trick yourself into thinking that you weren't working.
Mm-hmm.
And you just had to wait for what looks to me, when I'm looking in the logs here, it looks like Azure AppService took the time to go get that container.
Yeah.
And I remember asking myself before I restarted it, like, what is it doing? Why is it pulling Docker? What's going on? Well, that's what it was doing, right?
So, which is kind of interesting, right? That's because if something was to happen to your website, we're not in a container.
No. Well, no,
I mean,
right.
We did not
start starting it from a container. Because that is an option in Azure Web Apps, is to say run from a container. You hand it something in a registry, off it goes.
Yep. And it knows how to get that if the app falls over and it's got to redeploy it somewhere.
Yeah. But in our case,
I think, yeah. Go ahead.
So what we ended up doing, just for people who are wondering, what did you really, really do, is we created a GitHub. We used GitHub Actions. So some of this, I think, might have been a little bit of we struggled with the fact that we went to a whole new like system, a whole new process. We went from previously, this site was hosted on Azure DevOps. We were telling the Azure App Service, here you go, you build from there. And it was like, fine. It was monitoring that branch. Fine. We disconnected all of that. we said, okay, GitHub Actions is going to push it out. So technically the Azure web app doesn't even know or care where the deployment's coming from. It just knows it's coming. And one of the first problems we had, which I think it might still blow up if I take the API key out, but I had to get the API key into settings. And so it's hidden safely behind that. And then we deployed it, and then we were impatient, and then it worked. So that's my summary. Oh, are you on mute? Did you end up on mute there? Sorry.
I did it. That was me. Yeah.
That's all right.
So a typical development deployment story where we go through all the steps, we get impatient, and we keep hitting, and all of a sudden it showed up.
Yeah. So good. Happy ending.
Yes. But it was good to be able to see that in the log and be able to see, okay, what's going on under the covers there, so we are, aware.
Yeah, like it's not just magic. Like, oh, it worked. We understand that clearly AppService was going and getting .NET 8. Like, no doubt about it. That's what it was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can view the logs pretty quickly here. The deployment log, which kind of gave me a clue. It said, well, successful deployment. It's like, okay. And wow, we hadn't deployed this in over 3 years. We hadn't touched it. So,
wow. A lot's happened in those 3 years.
Yeah, now I hope we're on our way. There's lots of things we want to do. I want to add in identity so that we can log in and make small updates. I don't know what those are yet, but I think it'd be nice if we could just, like, maybe we could change the episode replay. And it's not any for functional purposes, just we're learning Blazor, we're learning how to do these things, and then you can go use them at work,
Definitely. Awesome.
So that's cool.
Great work. Yeah.
TheDevTalkShow.com, everybody. It's live. It uses certificates. Everything's great. We are no longer using Let's Encrypt.
Oh.
Part of that was because as part of our adventure to get up Let's Encrypt automated, kind of came across Azure. I think it's called Managed Certificates. And it's built in, and you can do it all from web apps. And it's just like, oh, this is really easy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really easy. It was even so easy that, like, it manages the devtalkshow.com. It also, the certificate also works for www. So, like, or we also happen to have this domain. We have devtalkshow.com.
Really?
And oh, wait a second. I thought so. Maybe I was planning a show where we fix this one.
Okay.
As you can see, it's complaining about it. It's saying, what? I wonder if I left it half done. I think I could figure that out pretty quickly, but yes, it looks like I did. I did leave it half done. I only did the work for, because I probably thought we could come and fix it on a show.
Yeah, that would be fun to see.
Yeah. So we used to use bring your own certificates. Now we use manage. It's super easy. It was like, yeah, you're right. Everyone should use it. But hey, it's 8:59, so it's like a minute till stand up here on Monday over Thanksgiving week. Thanks, Rich, for walking me through GitHub Actions and getting that going. We did it, and I wasn't sure we could do it in an hour, but we did. So if you watched us on YouTube, I'll try and get some chapters in there. Maybe we can skip over the part where we were hunting around. I would love to start doing that. But if you watched us live, thank you for joining us live, whether it's on Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, doesn't matter. If you're watching us in the future on YouTube, once again, thank you. Don't, if you really like what we're doing, hit the like button, give us some comments about what you'd like to see next. And, the subscribes help too. It's certainly the YouTube the YouTubes are definitely showing us to more people. We're seeing it, and hopefully you're enjoying it too. So have a great Monday. It is Monday.
It is Monday.
But have the greatest possible Monday you can.
Exactly.
And we're not, I don't know, it's Thanksgiving week. Not everybody wants to come into the office, so that includes me. So this might be it for the week, but otherwise check us out on Twitter, and we will see you all the next time on the Dev Talk Show.